to the 1000 Hours Outside podcast. I have a friend on with me today, which is always extra special when it's someone you've actually met and spent time with in person and connected. I have Dr. Kathy Koch from Celebrate Kids. Kathy, thank you so much for being here with us.
I'm excited to be here with you. So enjoy who you are and what you do. So it's an honor to support your ministry here.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm gonna read a little bit of your bio here. And then I'm going to throw in the nativities because that's a fun little extra. So Dr. Kathy Koch is founder of Celebrate Kids Incorporated, based in Fort Worth, Texas, which partners with parents to strengthen family relationships, develop children's unique gifts and talents, and equip them to live on purpose with intentionality. She has influenced thousands of parents, teachers, and children in 30 countries through keynote messages, seminars, chapels, banquet talks, and other events. She is a regular speaker for CareNet Summit Ministries, Teach Them Diligently, and the Colson Center. She was featured in Kirk Cameron's movie Connect, and she has published 5 books with Moody Publishers. Kathy, I love that. That's a bio, man. You've got a good life. You're doing awesome things.
Yeah, God has been faithful, and we work hard at Celebrate Kids, just like you work hard to have messages that matter for the people who pay attention to you. So
Yeah.
it's a real joy and an honor. Sometimes people are like, "You're an author," and I'm like, "And you're a mom, or you're a lawyer." Like, it just happens to be my career, but some people think it's amazing.
It is amazing. And so we were talking about, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're sitting in front of shelves of books, which just makes my heart pitter patter of books.
Yeah, and
We've got
organized. They're all organized, which some people are like, "No way!" But every shelf is a different topic, and I can pretty easily find what I'm looking for. Otherwise, why have books?
right. Well, then it's like a bookstore.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, but they're
smart.
not for sale. Ginny,
Yeah.
you can't come. See, none of those. Those are all mine. You can't have any of them.
Look at all those. Okay, then tell us, Kathy, tell us what's out in the hallway.
Oh, my Nativity Collection. I've been privileged to travel to 30 countries, and I started a collection of nativities back my very first trip, which was to Manila, the Philippines. I had one as a child that was near and dear, which is a whole nother story. But I've always, I love Jesus, and I love, of course, the Christmas story, and I have loved the artistry of the people who I've been able to purchase the nativities from. And then other people began to purchase them for me when they traveled. So I own 143 nativities
Oh,
from, I think, about 70 countries. And so there's some overlap, and they're displayed year round, either in my home or here in my office. And so it's a fun tribute to the Lord, and a really neat conversation piece when people stop by the office,
I'm
because again, the way that they're
sure.
made, that I've banana leaf from Kenya, and I could go on and on and on. I'm just very privileged.
We should have a whole podcast about your nativities. do
Yeah, we could do
you
that.
have do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh, no. There are favorites. I do appreciate that all of the ones I own from Eastern Europe have Mary and Joseph praying, which I think is significant. So their hands are in a prayer posture. Um, in many of them, Mary is holding Jesus, and there's not a crib, and that would be, culturally appropriate.
Yeah.
In the Czech Republic, they have a tradition that moms bring cake and pie to a new mom. And so that one has 18 pieces, and many of them are women in babushka scarves, like my grandmother would have worn, carrying a pie, and they're delivering a pie to Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus. And so that's fun because it has the Czech Republic tradition embedded within the nativity. So there's some very unique situations.
Well, it's interesting then. It could almost be like a lesson, some sort of a unit lesson for kids,
Mhm.
learning about different cultures through the nativity sets, things that you wouldn't know, and then you can really see um,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
The one that I own from Senegal in West Africa is the most colorful one that I own. The kings and Mary and Joseph are wearing flowing, beautifully bright, colorful cloth robes. Well, Senegal is the one of the cloth capitals of Africa. So you can go to the cloth market and buy, reams and reams, if you will, yards and yards and yards of fabric. And so that's meaningful too. And so you would learn about the
Yeah.
industry of Senegal. Yeah.
Yeah, you would learn a lot. I remember as a kid my third grade teacher, her name is Mrs. Gashhorn. I actually had her for 2 years in a row, and she collected elephants. And I think it's neat when people collect things because, then when you travel, you're thinking about them and it gives you like this little bit of a mission. And I remember my parents took us to Mexico when we were kids, and I vividly remember looking for a glass elephant for her and bringing
Yeah.
it back and being so excited. So I love that people it's in their minds, when they're
Yeah.
traveling, they're thinking about you, and it gives a little bit of like extra spice and fun to life to be searching,
I
things
I love
out.
that. And no, it's more fun for me to travel and shop for something specific. I don't really enjoy shopping for the sake of shopping. So I do have things I collect for every member of my family, and it does make it easier.
Oh,
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah.
really special. All right, we're gonna do a nativity podcast another time. But I do think that's super interesting. I love it. And I think collections are a special thing. I collect the little black walnuts. Like after a season has gone by and the squirrels have gotten into them and eaten the nut, I think it looks like a little heart inside. Some people think it looks like a pig snout, but I think it looks like a little heart. And so my kids know, like, when they're out, we've got a black walnut tree. If we're out in our yard, they're always looking for them for me, and they'll come running up, and I'm like, that's cute.
Very
Uh,
good.
life is full of cool things to collect. Okay, so I've got a couple of your books here. And I know you said you have five, but I've got three of them here. I have Eight Great Smarts, Discover and Nurture Your Child's Intelligences. I have Screens and Teens,
Mm.
which was a great book connecting with our kids in a wireless world. And then Five to Thrive, How to Determine if Your Core Needs Are Being Met. What a great question. And What to Do when they're not. So, can you tell us a little bit about your path to celebrate kids? Your path to, I know there's two more books besides this. But, how did you end up where you are in a nutshell?
Yeah, speaking of nutshells, right. I taught second graders and I thought I would teach second graders forever because when I was a second grader, I loved it and discovered that the lady teaching me was getting paid. So I could do this too. True story. So my family valued education. And so Dave and I were both raised with a high value on learning and truth. And so I wanted to pass that on, thought I would teach kids forever. But the Lord kept showing me that parents mattered and that teaching could even be better. And so I earned a PhD, went back to Purdue University and earned a PhD in reading and educational psychology and was a professor for 7 years. And I thought I would do that forever. So I've been a coach and a teacher of young kids, a professor. I've been a school board member of a Christian school, kind of tried a little bit of everything, trying to find where am I going to settle. And I don't know, Jenny, if you can relate, but I just never felt settled and really felt like there was something else out there and a little bit terrifying because I felt like I had, answered the call correctly, if you will, and earn the advanced degree, be a professor, which obviously is important to teach teachers how to teach children. But I wanted to work with parents, and I'm not a parent. As you know, I'm single and I'm not a parent, but I love telling parents what to do with their kids. It's so much fun, and I stay away from where I don't have a right to go, like bedtime battles and picky eaters, but I have expertise and insight that people have benefited from. So I met some people who allowed me to dream the dream. And Jenny, we all need people who allow us to dream the dream. And I, felt safe verbalizing. I wonder if I'm supposed to have a ministry to parents. And the Lord allowed me to meet some people and moved from Green Bay, Wisconsin to Fort Worth, Texas to do this. I earned tenure. I had a job for life as a professor, but that doesn't mean I should stay. And it was hysterical to quit and have so many people like, what are you doing? But now I've done this for 30 years. So the joke is, God, this is it now, right?
So
And
what's
now
next?
so now I travel and speak. And as you know, I have a wonderful staff and we create products to go with the books. I'm a writer, speaker, podcaster myself. And it's a joy and a privilege to do the conferences. We do conferences on our own that will go to a church and present a redirected parent conference. As you know, we do women's conferences, and then I'm also hired, as you are, to go into different situations and bring a word that is hopefully going to be transformative for people, because we want to be encouraging and we want to be helpful. It's not easy today to parent kids. The culture's chaotic and people are messy, and we want to bring messages that are going to be encouraging and insightful. And it's a real pleasure. It really is a pleasure to do so. It's hard, but it's a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, and this is how we met, actually. We met in
Yeah.
Virginia with HEAV, which is their faith-based homeschool organization in Virginia, HEAV, and they have so many resources for families. Um, and we met at their, it was a virtual conference, but we recorded it live. So that was surely an interesting experience. And I was drawn to you right off the bat. And I think that that's something that a lot of people say, that there's something about you, that's something that you can't even probably quantify, or, what is it? What is the thing? But there was something about just you as a person, but then also your quickness, and they just
Mhm.
obviously probably very bright, and that whole thing. But just, I'm like you say you're a chatty Cathy, right?
Yeah.
I'm like a nervous Nelly, right? And I have a friend named Nelly, but that's not my name. It doesn't really work for me, but I'm not always nervous. And I just was drawn to your presence, when people were asking questions, um and these different situations that we were kind of thrown into, you're just there for it. And so that's where we met. It was a pleasure to meet you there, and really
Well,
neat to
thank you,
connect
Jenny.
here.
And I remember you listening, and I remember you being teachable. And that was inspiring to me because sometimes when we do this for a living, we have our niche, we have our expertise, we have the thing we're known for. I mean, what you're doing is so important, and it sometimes allows us to check out when others are teaching and decide, oh, I don't know that. But you listened as a mom, and you listened as a leader of your own organization, and I really appreciated your teachability and the joy that you brought to the stage yourself. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm very, very glad we met there.
I'm so glad we met too. Thanks, Kathy. Well, let's talk about some of your books. So, I just love this concept of telling kids that they're smart. So,
Yeah.
maybe we can start with this Eight Great Smarts book. Discover and nurture your child's intelligences. We have this common thread where we were both school teachers, and you taught second grade. I love second grade. Actually, that was my teacher that collected the elephants. I had her for second and third grade. But I taught high school, and I taught high school math. And as you would probably know, high schoolers have carry this burden that they're not good at things. By the time they get to that age, it's very ingrained in them. And so what I set out to do was to try and change that messaging within themselves. You meet adults that are like, I'm not good at math. I mean, this is a badge that we carry forever. Not that you have to love math, but that you're not bad at it. You can do it. It might not be your favorite thing, but you can do it. We can find some different ways, some different things to learn. And so that was sort of always my goal. But I definitely had students who had teachers who had told them that they're not smart.
Yeah.
And I grieved that,
Mhm.
and so I never really thought about saying to a child, "You're smart. You're smart." Just those words, how powerful that is for a child to hear that. And so can you tell me about how the Eight Great Smarts gives us this path to tell children that they're smart?
Right. We say that smart is a power word. If children don't think they're smart, they don't think studying will help, which is really interesting. I would have thought in the old days that if you didn't think you were smart, you would study more
Mm,
because you would recognize you need to put forth more effort in order to learn it and potentially earn a better grade. But it makes sense to me now, knowing what I know, that children and adults who don't feel intelligent, they don't believe that they're smart, they don't believe they're capable, they don't believe studying will help because it's their brain that's defective. It's not what they're doing to enhance their learning, right? So smart's a power word. And when you tell, so I think, Jenny, we have a tendency to tell kids, good answer, or, boy, you're really creative, or, I like your idea. And there's nothing wrong with saying those things. But to say to a child, you're creative because you're picture smart. You did an excellent job at that because you're logic smart. So there are eight smarts. We know from the research of Dr. Howard Gardner that all of us have the capacity to develop all eight. There's word smart, we think with words; logic smart, we think with questions. And those are the two that I kind of call school smarts, because if you think about school and even church learning, there's a whole lot of words and there's a whole lot of questions and answers that take place either in discussion or in the written form. So word smart, logic smart, but we're also picture smart. We think with our eyes. Music smart. We think with music. Body smart. We think with our bodies through movement and touch. Nature smart. Hello. We think outside with patterns. That's how we know it's a bluebird, not a blue jay, an elm tree, not an oak tree. And then people smart. We think with other people, and self smart. We think deeply inside of ourselves. So quickly, those are the 8. And we can enhance all 8, awaken all 8. They can be paralyzed if we're not careful. We can help kids study with all 8 so that they're more effective. And if we're homeschoolers, we can homeschool with all, we can teach with all 8. If we teach in a brick and mortar school, if we teach Sunday school, if we're a scout leader, we can teach to more parts of the brain and increase motivation and learning and application and joy. And it's a beautiful thing to do.
Let's camp here for a little bit because I heard because I was a teacher, you hear about the different ways that kids learn. Kinesthetic does it stem from that? Does it stem from that, or is this a completely different path?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I deal with that a little bit in the book. It is different. Kinesthetic is I remember what I do. Auditory, I remember what I hear. And visual, I remember what I see. So those are
Okay.
very important as well to consider. And that's remembering and memory. This is how we think and this is how we learn. Now, if
Okay.
you are a body smart child or adult who thinks with movement and touch, and you're also kinesthetic by design, meaning that you remember what you do, you really will have a need for action. And you are constantly told, sit down, put that down. Would you just sit still for a minute? And yet if we paralyze the kids by making them sit still all day, they won't do as well. So we teach, of course, in my book and in my seminars, that obedience is right, and that we need to tell our kids that just because your body's smart, or just because your nature's smart, and you would rather be outdoors all day long, it doesn't give you the right to complain and whine when you're not allowed to go outside, because you still have to play the game called school, if you will, and sit in your desk and pick up your pencil and do your daily work.
Mhm. Well, these 8 smarts. I'm going to read a little blurb from your book. So if parents are listening, this might help them to figure out. Does your son keep his eyes glued to his book when you ask him to help with the dishes? He may be word smart. So I've got a couple of those that walk. They walk and read, right? Right? Okay. Every meal, every restaurant, they've got their book. Is your daughter always asking why, why? She may be logic smart. Does your daughter doodle all over her notes? She may be picture smart. Does your son irritate others with his constant humming and finger tapping? We have a few of those. Music smart. Does your child constantly move and touch everything? They may be body smart. Does your daughter pay so much attention to her cats that she doesn't finish her homework? We have friends. We're on a little hobby farm here. We have friends that come and all they want to do is be with the animals. That would be nature smart. Does your son interrupt you because he needs to know what you think about his ideas? He may be people smart. Does your daughter get lost in her thoughts and ignore your input? She may be self smart. So those were helpful questions for me, sort of in thinking about my own children and thinking about myself. So I thought I'd read that there for parents. And obviously, they can learn more about the 8 great smarts from your book. But I thought those were really good questions. And so I'm curious what you are actually.
Well, very word smart. I was a chatty Cathy as a kid. Did drama, did forensics, won the library reading awards in the summer, and now I'm an author and speaker. So, the joke is, people pay me to talk. It's a beautiful thing. So very, very word smart, very logic smart. I think with questions, I love it when things make sense. I actually enjoy some of my nativities because of the logic behind them. Even as I was describing the one from Prague, Czech Republic, why are there all the characters in the nativity bringing pies and cakes? Well, then I researched it and found out why. So very logic smart. Body smart. I'm a former athlete and coach, marching band. So that was a combination of music and
Yeah.
body. So music, body, very people smart. I enjoy this with you because I like thinking with other people. People smart people know what they know their ideas are good when they hear themselves say it and someone responds to it. And so as a speaker and as a podcaster, we're in this beautiful zone here where we're interacting and we're having aha moments within our own minds, and hopefully our listeners are as well. And that's the joy of being people smart. So people would be in my top 4 as well.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think? Certainly nature
Um,
smart.
So actually, this is the interesting thing, I had a
Do you
conversation
think?
with John recently, um, that is actually not my thing, and people call me the 1,000 hours outside lady. So that's sort of my name. It's become that.
Yeah.
Even out in public, we run into people, and we run into people here in their parks, and you're the 1,000 hours outside lady, and I do really enjoy being outside. But our outside time, we fell into it because I was drowning as a mom, not necessarily because that's what I was drawn to. I actually love to play the piano, but I don't think that I'm music smart either. I don't
Mm.
in rhythms and I enjoy. So actually, I think that I'm probably self smart because I know what I like, and um, I'm not sure. I think that I'm probably self smart and people smart. I think going through the book, that's where I landed.
Mhm.
So I guess what's interesting is that people can have different interests, but maybe also that's not their smart. You would think, oh, they must be this or they must be that, but um, I was actually surprised in reading the book and thinking through the different things where I landed, um, and just been thinking through about my kids as well. So, anyway, it's interesting. I think people should read the book and think it through, and it helps you know yourself better.
Yeah,
Um,
I appreciate that, Jenny. And it's not essential that we know the eight in order. What I usually recommend is, top four, bottom four. So because you can find your joy and your purpose in the way that you've been created to be smart. The combination of self and people is super important. It can be confusing internally and confusing to the people you live with because they don't know which one of you is going to show up for dinner. But it's ultimately a really good thing to know that about yourself. And it can help us identify our children and how to relate well to them, which,
yeah.
of course, is something you and I are both really passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, I love that your ministry is called Celebrate Kids. I mean, I think that that's something that as a society we don't do, and I also think that in general kids are really siphoned off from the real world, and
Yeah.
so out in public during the day. I mean, we don't see kids, and so I just love that Celebrate Kids. It just stirs something in me. You said in your book, I've met many adults who decided they were stupid because of how teachers treated them, what parents said about them, what parents never said, and how easily school came to a sibling. I don't have enough fingers to count the number of times I've heard my brother was the smart one. And so I
Mm.
just found that these eight great smarts for me, and we just met a couple months ago. So this is actually um, a new thing for me to be learning about, but it gives me the tools um, to hone in on individuality, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So like how you said, you're nature smart, you're wow, you're humming all the time. We've got one. She sings all the time. And in fact, I cry. She's such a good singer. What a gift. And we have this is really off topic, but we had two kids, and I had cesarean sections for the two of them with this failure to progress. And that's a whole story. And I wanted to give birth in the birth center and all these things. But, we changed after the two kids to not have any more cesarean sections because we didn't know how many kids we wanted to have. And sometimes you can be limited, you have scar tissue and things. And so we switched to do these home births, which were awful. When they were good, when they
Yeah.
were awful. It's so hard. But anyway, but we ended up having these three more kids after the cesarean sections. We had them at home. And the fourth one, our daughter, I mean, she's been singing and humming, to the point where, like you say, people are like, "Stop! Can you stop?" But this is in her. And so she just sings so beautifully. And I thought, what? I always think, what a gift! I get to listen to this all day, and it's possible we would never have even had her. I credit my midwife for taking us on, but
Mm.
to be able to say, even to the other kids, well, she's music smart, so that's why she's doing this. This is how she's wired. So, and there's less comparing, right? I think when you have these different smarts and things that you can talk to your kids about, the sibling comparing thing is a big deal.
It is. And she, for her and her siblings to understand that her interest and her talent is brain based. She's smart too. It may not help her a whole lot in, history and math, but it could. As an example, spelling, how do you spell Mississippi? Mississippi. You could be about to die and you will know how to spell that word
Yeah.
because music is so important for memory. And it might be the joy that keeps a kid in school. It might be the way that they serve the Lord. And again, these kids often think that they're creative, but they need to know that they're smart. And they also need to know that silence is golden. And so
Right.
if mom and dad and a brother say, "Hey, please stop for a minute. You're interrupting my flow." Kids need to be obedient, and we need to teach children that they live, work, love, serve in community, and it starts in the family. So you have an obligation to love your brother well. And just because you can hum, whistle, tap, and sing doesn't mean you always should.
Right.
And that's the power of the teacher again, is to not paralyze out of a child that gift of music, but to allow that child to know there's a time and a place. And we've got 20 minutes of seat work, 20 minutes of quiet reading, 20 minutes of your brother's trying to memorize a poem for the contest at school. And so you really need to be obedient, and you need to find a way to be quiet for at least 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And kids need to learn that they're capable of that.
Yeah. And so one of the topics I found in your book was this paralysis versus resilience.
Uh,
Let's talk about what causes paralysis. Um, because actually I think that's something that people would struggle with their entire life. I struggle with that at times. They're just like, I don't know what to do, or I don't want to do, or I'm scared to do, versus this quality of resiliency. I'm gonna do it, and even if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna keep trying.
yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, paralysis, the brain is a muscle, Jenny, like all the other muscles in our body. And so it can be paralyzed. And so it's possible that somebody's listening today realizing, "Oh, shoot, I paralyzed my son 20 minutes ago." Well, the good news is that it can be undone. And the other really good news is that, you weren't responsible to know this 20 minutes ago. So, no shame, no
Right.
blame, but we can walk forward with hope. But if I say to a child over and over again, "Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet," if I would have been raised by parents, be quiet, shut up, would you go find something to do? I'm so sick of your talking. I don't think I'd be here on this podcast with you today. But
Um,
my parents chose to see all the words in me as a strength to develop, not a problem to eliminate.
yeah.
And that's a key, because the things that we do well can irritate others. I think we often get in trouble with our strengths, not our weaknesses, because too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Yeah.
So the child who's logic smart and asks lots of questions, you might say, "You don't need to know that. Would you just leave me alone?" The picture smart child who's always doodling and always coloring and always distracted by what she sees is told, "Would you just listen to me and put down your pencil?" And music smart kids who toe tap, hum, and beat, and body smart who move, shake, rattle, and roll, and nature smart who are staring out the window and can't focus, and people smart people who are always talking to other people, and self smart people who are always falling kind of into themselves, and they're isolating into their own thoughts. And we are uncomfortable with that, and so get back over here and stop that. And the kids can begin to think that that strength in them is bad. And so they stop it, because children want to honor their mom and their dad. And children want to be loved, and they want to be liked, and they want to be obedient for those reasons. And yet there may be, women and men listening today right now, Jenny, who realize that a first spouse or a teacher or a sibling said something that caused their brain to atrophy, or maybe it was self-hatred. Maybe we even didn't like that part of ourselves because we didn't think it made us smart or it made us good, and so we stopped. We can be resilient, and we can try again, and we can choose to hang out with optimistic, encouraging people who love us well, and we can choose to activate the interest that was there when we were younger,
Yeah.
and to use it, for good purposes.
Now, and this gives tools. So, for my daughter that sings all the time, to be able to say, honey, you were made music smart, and what an awesome quality, that you have. And like you said, this is part of your purpose. You know, and even with your story, like you don't know where it's going to show up later on in life, but, and then also to be able to say, you know, this is a time, this is a time for quiet, or this is a time for stillness, or those types of things. I think it gives you tools to reframe it instead of just being like, "Stop. You
Yeah.
stop it," "Everyone's irritated," or, the types of things that, maybe we would say if we're sort of at the end of our rope, or not understanding, that this is who they are, and a beautiful part of who they are and how smart they are. So I think that's a good tool for parents, for teachers, in a
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, the other thing, Ginny, is to help kids like your daughter know the other ways that she's smart. So that when
right,
she does have to be quiet, to respect that grandma's over and gets nervous when there's too much noise, or a brother or a sister is studying, or mom or dad need quiet, that she understands that she is capable of controlling herself. Like, what a gift to learn that about yourself.
yeah.
And then you don't sit for 20 minutes angry that you have to be quiet. You go to a different part of your brain and you do that for 20 minutes. You read, you color, you play with the dog. You have self-smart moments. So that's the other reason to help kids know more about themselves than just their
That's the
most
one. That's good. Like you said, top four, bottom four. Yeah, that's really good. One of the things that you talked about in your book is about the smarts that tend to not be celebrated in the classroom. And I actually really loved, I loved this part. This was actually from, I think, from Five to Thrive, um, where there was a child that came up to you and said, I think I'm a permanent C student, like how you're permanently tall. And I thought, wow, just sort of this realization about ourselves that some things we can change and some things we can't change as easily. And like celebrating the way that we are. And I don't know, that really stuck out to me. So can we talk about the smarts that are celebrated in school, and the ones that aren't so much, and how as parents and teachers we can help kids through that?
Yeah, no, for sure. In most schooling situations, it's word and logic that are the most celebrated, because word smart children who have a lot of word smart brain cells read, write, speak, and listen easily. And what do we do all day in school? We read, we write, we speak, and we listen. And so children who do not have as many smarts in that part of the brain will not find school as enjoyable, or probably it will not be as easy, but they can certainly still be successful. Logic smart are kids who think with questions. They like it when things make sense. Cause effect, comparison, contrast thinking comes easily to them. So science and history tend to be things that they may gravitate toward. Nonfiction versus fiction would be another example. And so children without as many brain cells there are going to feel like they're not as smart as their brother. And yet in reality, we all know people who have been very successful in life, even if school was hard,
Yeah.
right? And we also know people that, school was really easy and they're flunking life because life doesn't work like school, and so we do need to celebrate all eight. And so this is part of the book. For instance, if children aren't terribly word smart and writing is hard for them, but you know that your child is picture smart, well, make sure your child sees what she's writing. She's writing about the angry sheriff who found the kids playing in the park after curfew, right? And they were whatever. And so see that and now write that. And now you're going to write with more vivid verbs and with richer adjectives because you saw it in your mind. As somebody who's not terribly picture smart, it's one of my weaker ones. I have a hard time as a writer remembering to add adjectives. It doesn't come naturally to me. And so you can also teamwork. Like I have a member of my staff who proofreads and who enhances my writing because on my own I'm not as effective as I am when I work with a team. So, those are things that I would talk about. In math, as an example, math is a logic smart discipline, logic, but geometry requires logic and picture smart. Chemistry and physics and general science are very logic and word oriented. But what about, earth science, biology, meteorology, environmental science? Those are all nature smart sciences. And so if you know that you're raising a kid who's nature smart, now you help him choose a ninth grade science elective that he'll do better at and enjoy. And there actually might be some career focus there as well.
Now, those are really good ideas. You talked about in your book how you curate a misspeller's dictionary, and that
Yep.
spoke to me because I'm actually an awful speller and really bad with grammar. So here I am in this path of blogging and I mean I have typos all the time. I do not see them. I'll like read and reread. I'm like thinking it's what I'm trying to say it out loud. These things I do, and then I'll post, and 10 seconds later I'll get a text from my husband. He'll be like, You got a typo. Or I'll get a message my mom. My mom actually edited our book because it got canceled by the publisher. So we had to self-publish. So my sweet mother over the phone, she says she can see every single mistake, but I thought it was neat how you said you carry a misspellers dictionary. I mean, what adult, comes out and says, look, I mean, it's a thing for me. It made me think I gotta buy one of those because
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not, yeah,
it's a great tool, and it's no different than a kid or an adult using a calculator for math because we don't remember all of our math facts or we don't want to have to go through the effort. I'm very logic smart. I want the rules to work. If there's an E at the end of the word that makes the first vowel long, put it there, but you don't always. And I'm not very picture smart, so I don't remember what the word looked like the last time I saw it.
yeah,
Was the P doubled or was the S doubled? And so obviously if I'm typing into a computer, there's spell check, but it doesn't always catch it. Um, but I often write with an ink pen or whatever. But yeah, Misspellers Dictionary, you look up the word the way you think it should be spelled and you'll find it there. My
that's
favorite example would be knowledge. Like, why is knowledge spelled Knowledge? In my world, knowledge would be spelled Nowledge, right?
yep.
So in my dictionary, that's where you'll find it. And
Wow,
then it tells you how to spell it. So
wow.
it can be a real blessing. Also, Ginny, I use a thesaurus. A thesaurus was one of my favorite
Thanks.
books when I was a child. And I use a thesaurus now to write, whether it's my blog, my newsletter article, or one of my books, because yeah, as an example, I can look up pretty in a thesaurus and find all kinds of other words that I might not have been able to find in a dictionary.
Yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with that. You surround yourself, if you knowing your weaknesses is really
yeah.
wise because they might hurt you, they might hurt others, but then you surround yourself with things and people that will fill in the gaps.
And I think this is a huge message of hope for parents, to say, look, here's an accomplished adult who has
Yep.
written 5 books, who speaks around the world, and she carries a misspellers dictionary. Like, I think then we can take that and say to our kids, find the things that help you, find the things, you know, there's nothing wrong with you, right? We can
Right.
all find tools that help to strengthen our weaknesses and people, tools and people, just like you said, to surround ourselves with. It's a
Yeah, you
message
can
of
just
hope for sure.
go to a place like Amazon and just type in Misspellers Dictionary, and I think they only sell them used now, which I think is really sad. But it's
Make
where
your own.
I own a really small paperback, and
Yeah,
it's worth having.
yeah, for sure. I liked in the 8th grade smarts how you had games. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
Games that were good for every smart. So, for example, word smart is like categories and apples to apples. Picture smart is telestrations. That's one of our absolute favorite games. You have games for all of them. Body smart, you have Twister and self smart puzzles and Legos. And so I was thinking about how, in a family setting, that games could help all of your children, right? Because if you're playing apples to apples and you have a kid who's not word smart, maybe that's one of their top bottom four, then that's going to help bring them up. And so, how we can help our children grow through games, that's kind of what I got out of it.
Absolutely, and I think it also helps us identify why some kids don't want to play certain games. And it's also, of course, games are really, really good when the family loves each other well. Games are not healthy if there's a lot of comparisonitis and teasing and, man, you're so stupid. So maybe we team it up. Maybe the most word smart child partners with the child who's not as good at that, and they play apples to apples as a team so that they can be supportive. But yes, games can be a super fun way to awaken the smarts because the capacity is there when we're born. It needs to be awakened and strengthened and developed and supported. So absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I thought we usually do a giveaway with all of our podcasts. I thought it'd be fun to give away some games. We liked a lot of the ones that were on your list. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and talk about the screens and teens since technology is so pervasive. And one of the things
Yeah.
you said, which I loved, is technology gives and technology takes away. So there is that balance there. We're all about balance because our kids live um, in a computer age world. So they need to know how to use the screens. Um, so I didn't really put any questions down here, but I put down, I put down a couple quotes. One of the things you said is young people don't think about their technology. Technology is technology only for people who were born before it was invented.
Yeah.
That was eye-opening for me. That our
Uh,
kids don't view this, children don't view this the same way that adults do. It's just their world.
yeah, they're so intuitive. It's just a part of them. Kids have said it's like breathing, and so like when I use technology, I have to use brain cells to actually think about it, and I have to purpose to go somewhere with my tech. Whereas for young people, like you were saying that your kids can walk and read a book at the same time. Young people today they think they can multitask and use technology at all times and do things, and it's here to stay. There's nothing inherently horrible about tech, but it can change our character. It can change our beliefs if we're not careful, and that's the passion. As you know, Jenny, my book is not about technology per se. It's not about platforms and apps. It's not my
Right.
expertise. My passion at Celebrate Kids is to help parents and educators and even young people themselves understand how the use of technology can influence what we believe and how we behave if we're not careful. We're all more impatient than we used to be. Let's just admit that.
Yeah.
And that's because of the ease of the click of the mouse and the GPS and the everything's on the phone that you think you'll ever need. And we don't have to wait. And when we have to wait, it's just terrible. The red light. It's very hard. People have admitted to me to not pick up a phone at a red light. And it's 60 seconds, but
Wow.
you
Wow.
can't handle waiting.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big deal. One of the quotes that was in here, well, you had a great little paragraph about things to do. Like, let's make meals together. Let's enjoy life. Let's discuss what we're reading and what we find enjoyable and what we find intriguing. Let's play board games. Let's talk and laugh. So I just love that. It just reminds you of a full life. Let's go to sporting events, that type of thing. Let's plant a garden. But one of the quotes in there, it was must have been from a parent, and he or she said, "My putting down the screens said my son hadn't left us as much as I had left him."
Uh,
I thought that was quite a statement. That I think a lot of times we look at it that screens are pulling teens away from us or they're pulling our children from us. But then that was a different perspective, which is that, possibly that screens, and maybe is a bigger problem, are pulling us from our children. Is that something that you see?
Oh, absolutely. And it's what kids see. Kids tell me they won't talk to their mom about something that's hard to talk about if she has her phone in her hand. Because as soon as it pings or it dings, she's distracted and she's going to go there in her mind, even if she's trying to listen to me. If we're honest, when we're stressed and depressed, we go to our social media, we go to our Pinterest boards, we go to our games on our phones. We have to be really careful of that. Dads might be gaming, they might be on a bank website, an ESPN website. Nothing horrible about any of that. But kids want our full attention. And I wish that we would be better at when we're present, let's be present and let's try to wait for some of those kinds of things until our kids are in bed or our kids are at soccer practice and then we scroll social media. I don't say that lightly. We have a right to be on tech, but we also, if you're a parent, be a parent. If you're married, be present. There are divorces happening because the man was in the man cave and the woman was on our Pinterest board. And I know that that's true. I'm not making that up. And so we need to be really, really careful. It it pulls us, right? It pulls us. It's quick, it's easy, it's about us. Um, it's there are reasons that we're drawn to it. The technology is teaching us the lie that we deserve to be happy all the time. Because we on our phones, we only do what we want.
Mm,
So it's all about what we want. We can believe we're the center of our own universe.
yeah.
Before I got onto the podcast with you, Jenny, which is it's such a privilege to be here, really, really grateful for you. Before I came on with you, I posted something on social media. I endorsed a book, and the book launches today. So I posted a picture of myself with the book and posted a high recommendation. It's a book about mental health, and I really want people to read it. So when we are finished, I will go to social media to see how many people have liked that, to see if there's any problem with the post. And I have to be really careful. What if no one's liked it in an hour? Like, where are all my people? Why are you not
Right,
believing me?
right,
And so
right.
we have to be really, really careful that we don't fall into the trap that, it's what makes us us. Oh, good heavens.
what gives us
Yeah,
our worth.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. And so, the list of things that you were reading, play outside, read a book, have a discussion. Here's the thing I want to say: addiction to technology is real, and addiction to what it does to us is real. I think we're addicted to the happy lie that I write about. The second lie. I think we're addicted to the lie that we deserve choice because of the drop down menu effect and all the apps on the phone. And so we like our devices because we're addicted to the adrenaline drop, if you will, the dopamine drop. And we're addicted to I want to be happy. No, it's not about you. It's about me, me, me. Like, I'm amazing. Have you known that? Why don't you know that yet? We can get very addicted to the sin, let's call it sin of selfishness and self-centeredness and all of that. And so it's hard. That's why in our homes we need to leave the board game out. Don't put all the board games in the game closet. Put a checkers board on the coffee table, and put a Sudoku book and a coloring book on the end table, and put a jigsaw puzzle up in the living room, and put a frisbee and a soccer ball at the back door, and leave things out. I'm not asking for clutter and mess, but I'm
They're good
asking that.
ideas though. Because
Yeah,
our
because
phones are always are, if you think about it in that aspect, our phones are always there. But these other
right.
tools that that facilitate relationship are not always there, and we have to put an effort to go get them out. And I think that that is actually a very practical, really good idea. Can we plant things around our life um, that help to
Yeah,
facilitate, getting serotonin in a different way,
yeah.
through relationship and through action and activity. And those are really good ideas.
Thank you. I think they're practical, and I think
Yeah,
they can work for the mom and the dad and for the kid.
yeah,
And I
for
don't think it's
sure.
hard. We just have to choose to do it.
I agree. I agree. And, I think I've heard a lot about kids are not learning to cope with hard emotions, because they always just turn to the screen. And we need to learn how to cope with hard emotions. And life has hard moments. And so if we're always turning to the screen to sort of numb that, then that's a disadvantage down the road. Uh,
Yeah.
Kathy, I really enjoyed your books. I liked in Five to Thrive. There was all these questions about social skills. I really liked that. Right in
Mm.
the middle here.
Yeah, part of the
Uh,
belonging chapter, right? That we can actually
yeah,
teach kids friendship skills,
yeah,
and we can learn them
belonging.
ourselves. Yeah.
Wants me? What a good question. So, questions in here like, am I an active listener? Do I genuinely care about what people are saying? Do I have empathy and sympathy for their situation and communicate that? Why or why not? These are really good questions. I think, especially we've got preteens and teens. Do I share what I've been told even when I shouldn't? Can I be trusted? So I really love this. Is 4 or 5 pages here of really good questions. How can I discern that a relationship is no longer healthy? So I
Mm.
really like this as a resource, one of my favorites. So your books are fantastic. So I've got these three here. I have Five to Thrive, Screens and Teens, and Eight Great Smarts. Kathy, what are the other two books?
I appreciate your endorsement so much. I've also written No More Perfect Kids with Jill Savage, and
Okay.
it's a book about raising the children you were given, not the children you wish you had.
Um,
And yeah, not trying to create them, in your image, which of course is not healthy. And then the other book that you don't have that I need to make sure to send you is the book Start with the Heart. And it's a book about securing their heart so that they'll care about what you think. So it's a book about motivation, character, and communication, and very, very important. A lot of practical. My books are practical, and
yeah, they
they're
are.
written for moms and dads who care about their kiddos.
Yeah, and they're pretty quick. I like the size, like they're easy to kind of throw in your purse and
Cool.
carry around. So I like that too. And
Thank
like you
you.
said, just I think we all need practical. What can I do today? I can get out a game. I can set a football at the back door. Like these types of things. I can start to talk to my kids about their relationships and their friendships and those deeper things. Those things that we learn in time, but do we really teach them um, to our
Yeah.
kids? And we have these opportunities. So Kathy, if people want to find more about your books, if they want to find more about Celebrate Kids, where can they go?
Our website is very simple. It's celebratekids.com. So just celebratekids.com. My podcast is called Encouraged with Celebrate Kids. And we're all over social media as you are. And we would love for people to like us, follow us, and all those kinds of things and hang out. We have a newsletter, an email newsletter that comes out every Friday that includes the Ask a Child questions and a column from me. It's free and short because people are busy, and they can subscribe to that newsletter at the website celebratekids.com. So thank you for letting me promote that, and really appreciate what you're doing. And the fact that we're connected brings all of us at Celebrate Kids love you and what you do. Really glad to be here today.
Oh, you're sweet. I really are the Kid questions. Is that what you call them? Ask a Kid questions?
Ask a
Those
child.
Ask a Child. And so those come out in your newsletter, and you also put them on Instagram. And so those are a highlight of our kids' week. I think kids love to be asked about that. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. I learned that as a young age, at a young age. People like to talk about themselves. And, so if we can find time to listen and ask good questions, around the dinner table, our kids love those questions. And I usually grab them from Instagram, but they're also in the newsletter. And the kids are like, we won't give us more, ask us more. So
Oh,
they really
so great. Yeah, Instagram,
like that.
Facebook, and our newsletter. But I appreciate that you use them. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's a great resource. So thank you for that. Kathy, can we end with a favorite outdoor childhood memory of yours?
There are many. I will say playing croquet with my brother and cousins. So I was raised with all of my cousins. We lived within a mile of each other. We went to school and church together. Grandparents, aunts, and uncles were really close. And my grandparents on my mom's side had a perfect backyard for croquet. The right little hill here and the tree that would get in the way there. And my brother and my cousin were the ones that would regularly set up the metal loops that you would have to knock the ball through, and they loved making it challenging. And so I would say, hanging out on a Saturday afternoon, we went to my grandmother's every Saturday morning for pancakes. Every Saturday morning.
Wow.
Every Saturday morning, went to our grandparents for pancakes, and we would stay after. And in the right weather, we would play croquet. And so hanging out with people and certainly enjoying the fresh air. There's other memories, but that's the one that stood out to me today when I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Yeah. That's really special. I love the simplicity. That's not
Yeah,
hard,
no, it's not.
know.
And,
They have the little loops and the mallets and
yeah,
little balls to hit. Yeah.
it's something different. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to say something else, Jenny, and I don't know if you noticed this in the technology book, but I just want to acknowledge being outside, and which of course we're not doing as much because of tech, which is really a burden. But when we're outside and when we play, it's different from if you're on a hammock reading a book. But if you're outside and you're playing, thoughts and feelings merge, and you connect with people, and wisdom rises. So now this can happen inside as well, but when we're playing with people, thoughts and feelings merge, and ideas are shared, and wisdom rises.
Wow.
So playing, we should never say, oh, I didn't get much done today, I just played with my kids. There might be nothing more important than spending time with children, whether that's going for a walk or playing croquet or fill in the blank. So I just wanted to leave your listeners with that idea that what you're doing to recommend that we're outside, and that what we're talking about here, whether it be board games or croquet, it's thoughts and feelings and people merging and coming together, and wisdom rises. It's so important.
I'm glad you brought that up, because actually one of the things that I had thought about when I was reading Eight Great Smarts is that sometimes these things are actually really overwhelming. It's like if you have a classroom of 25 kids, or you have one child or two children, and you have five children or 10 children, or whatever your situation is, you have nieces and nephews, and you say, well, you could come at this and say, oh, this is actually kind of overwhelming, all these different smarts, and how it, as one person, am I supposed to facilitate? But I was thinking about how when you go outside, there are opportunities, I think, to touch on all of those. So I've got the child that loves to read, that always has a book with them. I have a couple of those. But then also there's a lot of opportunities for logic. If the kids are smashing the ice, and there's all these things that they're testing fulcrum points and
Yeah.
balance. And the nature smart is an obvious one, but the body smart, and the kids are able to climb, and then outdoors, it's like you've got the birds, and you've got space to hum, you've got space
Yeah.
seeing, and sort of the woods and the trees and the air absorbs your noise a little bit. That was always something that when my kids were young, I thought when I go outside, it's quieter, even if the kids are loud. It's quieter for me as a mom, and so obviously in Picture Smart, and there's so many visual things outdoors, and so that was a little bit of a hope for me. Instead of getting overwhelmed, I thought, well, here's a venue, an environment that sort of facilitates all of the things that we can be. Obviously, self smart. There's time for introspection, and then people smart, right? There's a lot of time for social interaction as well. So. Um, I'm glad you brought that up because was something I was thinking about through the book and I kind of forgot about. So, um, but that was sort of a hope, little spark of hope for me that, when we're getting outside, that it's giving the kids opportunity to strengthen their weaknesses and strengthen their strengths.
Love it. Love it. Well, it's a joy to be with you, Jenny. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Someday we're coming to see those nativities.
I would love that.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.